Welcome to this month's edition of Okaloosa Eye on Crime.
What we're going to be talking about this go-around is additional reward money that's being offered in a destined threat investigation. We're also going to discuss several armed robberies that have been taking place, and we're going to talk about Spring Break 2017. That's going to be everybody's favorite subject. Let's get started. In addition to a reward being offered by Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers, an additional $5,000 is being offered by a private citizen through Crime Stoppers for information that leads to the arrest of the person or persons who sent a threatening letter to a Destin councilwoman regarding her 10-year-old daughter back in July. Destin councilwoman Preble Ramswell received a letter in the mail that instructed her to resign her position on the city council by August 1st, and if she did not, her daughter would, quote, be gone. Anyone with information about this case can contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers anonymously at 850-863-TIPS, of course online, emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or submit a tip via the P3 mobile app.
And we also do want to mention with that, there is actually an additional separate reward being offered also by that private group of citizens separate from Crime Stoppers. So if they want to contact police or work with those individuals, they can as well. So lots of money being offered up for that case. Next up, the Crestview Police Department is trying to identify this jewelry store, pair of burglars actually. The Crestview Police Department is seeking the public's help in identifying suspects who burglarized a local business on the night of December 18th back in 2016. Two men dressed in dark ninja-style clothes broke into the Lewis Diamond Gallery there on Ferdon Boulevard. About 11:05 p.m., they got through the front door, which they forced open, and investigators say the men damaged several display cases and stole numerous pieces of merchandise. Anybody with information can contact investigator Ralph Garrett up at the Crestview Police Department or, of course, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers anonymously.
Next up, armed robbers target Racetrack Road business. That was back on January 3rd. For the first go-around, the sheriff's office is looking for that armed robber after responding to the 911 call from the Racetrack Road business around 6:45 p.m. The AOC Food Mart and Texaco station at 306 Racetrack Road near Fort Walton Beach was held up by a short black male weighing approximately 145 pounds and dressed all in black with a hoodie, a ski mask, and gloves. The clerk says the robber brandished a weapon and took cash before leaving on foot. And then on January 19th, a man attempted to rob the same store. In this incident, the clerk was confronted by the terrifying scene of a man dressed in dark clothes again and armed with a handgun. And she locked herself in the bathroom to get away from him during an armed robbery attempt. The victim says the man pointed the gun at her around 5:30 a.m. when she was coming out of the restroom, and she immediately slammed it shut and called 911. The thief tried to get into the cash register but was unsuccessful.
And another one the Crestview PD is trying to identify, but this one's actually a robbery suspect. Back on December 12th at about 6:45, this black male robbed the Tom Thumb store located at 5150 South Ferdon Boulevard. Suspect is described as a light-skinned black male between 5'6" and 5'8" tall, was wearing a camouflage hat, black t-shirt, camouflage pants, black sliders, a red bandana, and was armed with a handgun. So take a look at that. If you recognize him or have any information about that robbery, give us a call, 863-TIPS.
Another business burglary, this one at the Bob Sykes Corner Food Market. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is investigating after someone shattered the front window at the Corner Food Market near Fort Walton Beach. That's over on 100 Bob Sykes Boulevard, I should say. The business's alarm was activated around 3 a.m. in the morning, and deputies say lottery and scratch-off tickets were the target. Those were among the items taken in the burglary, and a witness did say she spotted a man dressed in white climb up on a nearby tank and use a rock to break the window. So contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers if you know anything about that one.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is also trying to identify a business burglar. On January 23rd, they responded to a commercial burglary at the Ono Surf Shop located there in 2236 East County Highway 30A out in Santa Rosa Beach. Now, the pictured subject here actually used a kettlebell-type object to break the front glass of the business. He was in the store for about 1 minute and departed with clothing and merchandise, described as a male, unknown race, approximately 5'6", medium build, wearing white gloves, gray hood, and light-colored or white shoes with black or dark tips. And they're not the greatest of photos, but maybe somebody has some information about that. Give us a call, 863-TIPS.
And Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office investigators are not giving up on trying to locate who's responsible for the disappearance of a Fort Walton Beach teenager, and this is a case that's 27 years old now. 13-year-old Andrea Durham disappeared from her family's Ocean City apartment near Fort Walton Beach while she was home alone on the evening of February 1st, 1990. When her mom and sister returned home from a meeting, they found Andrea's purse and all her personal belongings inside, but Andrea was gone. Investigators say nothing was out of place and there were no signs of a struggle or foul play. Many leads have come in over the years, but none have panned out, and the case remains an open missing person investigation. However, there is concern, obviously, that there was foul play involved.
Yeah, and you have to think somebody out there knows something, so we certainly
Absolutely.
would love for them to give us a call anonymously. Well, Spring Break 2017 runs from February 17th to April 23rd this year, and the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office plans to follow the same operational plan this year as last year.
All right, and we all know that's going to involve cracking down on underage drinking, and they say the reason for this is because it obviously reduces the potential for public safety dangers ranging from people climbing on balconies and fights, disturbances, and even sexual assaults. So that's the plan again this year, with offenders taking a trip once again to jail rather than just being handed a notice to appear. Here's Sheriff Larry Ashley.
Since the Panama City Beach and Bay County issues of a couple of years ago with the sexual assaults and the fights and the guns and the shootings and the underage drinking, you know, Bay County, Walton County, Okaloosa County, Santa Rosa County, we've always have really toughened up and had a zero tolerance approach towards underage drinking and possession of alcohol, certainly drugs, which are illegal in and of themselves, or illegal drugs, firearms. We want the kids that are on spring break to come enjoy themselves and build memories and have a great time in our community. What we won't tolerate, and what we have a zero tolerance approach for, is the violation of the law. This is a community full of people who live and work here every day and go to school here, and we're just not going to put up with lawless behavior. And so we have decided that those things that we would ordinarily give a notice to appear just was not effective in combating the underage drinking and possession of alcohol and illegal drugs. And so we arrest people now, we take them to jail, we photograph them and book them in, and as a deterrent that your parents will have to come get you. Some adult will have to come get you out of jail. We don't release kids to kids. Illegal or fake identification is also a crime. It could be a felony in some instances, and we're going to arrest you if you have a fake ID and you present it yourself as somebody else or somebody that's older. The large crowds we encourage, have a good time, but we don't have glass on the beach, we don't build fires on the beach, and we don't certainly congregate for the sole purpose of having underage people within those crowds able to obtain illegal substances, whether it's alcohol, drugs, or something else. Again, we'll have the same operational plan as we did last year. We'll have a little bit more manpower this year, have an additional Marine unit that was provided to us through TDC funding, and an additional Marine funding from the City of Destin via their law enforcement contract. So we'll send out our open letter to our college students that, you know, spring break starts in mid-February, I think, goes all the way through April, depending on what schools celebrate at the time, and is off that week, and we'll be prepared. And, we just want people to be safe, and that's the key. Is we're one of the largest tourist attractions in the state of Florida, and we want people to come and enjoy our community. We just want them to do it safely and lawfully. We do have law enforcement officers. We'll have our deputies on four-wheelers on the beach, and we'll have air coverage. The Walton County Sheriff's Offices, through mutual aid agreements, will certainly patrol parts of our beaches via air. And we'll have lifeguards out as well, but our safety is first and foremost our responsibility. Each of us are responsible for our own safety, and so don't ignore that and overlook that and think there's always going to be somebody there to come to the rescue. We'll do our best.
Now, last year, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office arrested more than 350 spring breakers for underage possession of alcohol.
So this year, they can't say that they haven't been forewarned, because the information is going out again in this show and through news releases and things to alert spring breakers that this is the operational plan for the Sheriff's Office, so you can't say you didn't know about it. Next up, we're going to take a look at some of the area fugitives that Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers is offering rewards for their capture, and if you can provide information leading to their arrest, you can earn a cash reward.
And investigators are looking for 33-year-old Samantha Jo Hill, who was wanted for violation of probation for possession of controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, and grand theft, last known to live on Powell Drive in Niceville.
I'm going to say Tiggy Andrew Frost. I have no idea if that's the correct pronunciation, but regardless, he's wanted for failure to appear on charges of possession of weapons and ammo by a convicted felon, possession of controlled substances, possession of cocaine, and driving with a suspended license, last known address Monahan Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And Kevin Allen Rogers is wanted for violation of probation for willful fleeing or eluding law enforcement, driving while license suspended or revoked, battery, and battery on a person 65 years or older, last known to live on Old River Road up in Baker. And the Fort Walton Beach Police Department is trying to locate Tori Camilla Brown, who is wanted for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, last known to live over on Green Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Got a 19-year-old up next, Leanne Summer Lawson, wanted for violating probation on charges of possession of cocaine, last known address Seibert Avenue in Destin.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office would love to locate this guy who's wanted for armed robbery, and that's Lucas Lorenzo William, and that's reference a robbery that happened back in October up in Defuniak Springs.
Carrie Ann Daly was last known to live over in Pensacola. She's a 28-year-old female wanted for violating probation on a charge of grand theft.
And 34-year-old Arthur John Collins is wanted for aggravated battery, last known to live in Crestview.
Next up, located since the last show, we can now remove Johanna Dwyer.
But investigators are still looking for 21-year-old Aaron Chase Fowler, and they're looking for him for violation of probation for grand theft and possession of a controlled substance, last known to live in Baker.
Another new face, Stephen Sherman, 57 years old, wanted for extortion or threats, and last known to live on Vinings Way in Destin.
And you can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously if you know where Lennon Wayne Harris is located. He's wanted for violation of probation and failure to appear for the original charge of burglary, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
And last on this list at the moment, Aaron Deering Odell, 30 years old, wanted for violation of probation for grand theft ×3, trafficking in stolen property, and fraud. Last known address for Odell was Sycamore Avenue in Niceville.
And next up, let's look at some law enforcement news of interest. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has recovered more than $50,000 in stolen guns, jewelry, and coins taken during the burglary of a Crestview area home back in mid to late December. The homeowner on Bearhead Road says thieves stole a 600-pound safe from the house. Now, the safe contained about $25,000 in guns and another $25,000 in jewelry, precious metals, and fishing equipment. Sheriff's Office investigators developed leads in the case, which led them to the home of 28-year-old Joshua Zick at 2196 North Pole Street. Now, when investigators arrived, he was loading some of the stolen firearms into his truck. And investigators interviewed him. He provided a full confession and led deputies to several locations where the stolen guns were stored. Now, also 31-year-old Brandon Zick was developed as a suspect and voluntarily provided investigators with a bag containing the stolen jewelry and the precious metals. In addition, Joshua Zick led investigators to his place of employment, which was Anderson, Columbia on Highway 90 there in Holt, where he and Brandon previously used construction equipment to open and eventually bury the stolen safe. And the safe was later located and excavated. Both Joshua and Brandon Zick have been charged with armed burglary, grand theft, criminal mischief, and 53 counts of theft of a firearm, and additional arrests are forthcoming. So great job by our law enforcement folks and investigators there.
And they did tell us, the investigators said that these two are cousins. We had different people ask, are
Yes.
they brothers or related? Yes, they're cousins. Next up, a shoplifting suspect trying to make her getaway from the Kmart near Fort Walton Beach dropped not only her nearly $1,200 in stolen merchandise, but also her purse containing her identification, methamphetamine, and drug paraphernalia. A loss prevention officer at the Kmart says 30-year-old Romana Pretty fled on foot through the parking lot and got into a silver Honda Accord that sped off when he tried to make contact with her. However, she dropped the bags and her purse with all her identification and the drugs. And so the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office was able to quickly track her to her Green Street home, and they've charged her with grand theft, resisting a merchant, using a tool to remove anti-theft devices from merchandise, possession of methamphetamine, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Deputies also arrested 33-year-old Craig Bracchetto, the suspected driver of the Honda Accord, and they say when they arrived at the home, they found him in the driver's seat attempting to fill a syringe with meth. He's charged with possession of methamphetamine and possession of drug paraphernalia.
And last around on news around law enforcement, on January 25th, it was a very tough day here at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office, and its canines team had to say goodbye to retired Canine Bach due to serious health issues affecting his quality of life. Past and present canine handlers joined Deputy Martin Jennings at Blue Water Bay Animal Hospital to give Bach a loving and respectful send-off. We want to say rest in peace, Canine Bach, and thank you for your service and your contributions to the safety of Okaloosa County citizens and visitors alike.
Yeah, that was a tough one because kind of unexpected with his health conditions coming up. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office firing range is a place where local law enforcement officers train with their weapons, but it also is occasionally a spot where citizens get a chance to come out with certified weapons instructors. Here's a recent group that we're showing you from Eglin Air Force Base at the range. The OCSO offers a free firearm safety course multiple times a year, and it involves not only classroom time to learn about gun laws and proper handling of your weapon, which is critical, but there's also a trip here to the firing range where those instructors make sure you know how to load and how to shoot your gun safely. If you're interested in the class, you only have to go to the OCSO website at sheriff-okaloosa.org and look for the firearm safety course. To sign up, just plug it in the search bar if that's easiest. Keep in mind a background check's required, and you have to have your own gun and ammunition. There's often a waiting list, so keep that in mind as well, because the free class is so popular that there's supply and demand issues sometimes. Moving on now to our second round of wanted suspects from our area as of today's taping date, which is January 26th. First up is Edward Lamont Fountain, 37 years old, wanted for failure to appear on carrying a concealed weapon, possession of weapon or ammo by a convicted felon, possession of a controlled substance and narcotics equipment, and driving with a license suspended or revoked. Fountain was last known to live on Wilson Street in Crestview.
And investigators are looking for 31-year-old Matthew Albert Beaupre. I'm assuming I'm saying that right, but I have no idea. He is wanted for violation of probation for trafficking in stolen property and uttering a forged instrument.
And I've got another one that has been located since last show, so that means Austin Gregory Gucci can be taken off our list.
But we're still looking for 46-year-old Bart Storm McDonald, who was last known to live in Crestview, and he is wanted for violation of probation for burglary and grand theft, as well as failure to appear for fraud and vehicle theft.
And next up is Willie Maurice Floyd, 35 years old. He is wanted for coordinating in a retail theft over $3,000 and possession of anti-shoplifting control devices.
And deputies are looking for Jacob Nariah Blankenship, and he's wanted for a violation of probation for grand theft.
George Monroe Emmerich II is wanted by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. His charge, violating probation for domestic violence, strangulation, and aggravated battery.
And Ivan Ivanu Baramov, who was last known to live on Plough Avenue in Shalimar, he's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft.
Contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers and get a reward if you know how to find David Brent Evans, wanted by the Fort Walton Beach Police Department for credit card theft and fraudulent use of a credit card. Evans' last known address was in Freeport.
And 37-year-old Kendrick Cordell Boxey, and he's wanted for violation of probation for child abuse.
And we keep coming back to Alexis Wilmer Mondragon, 32 years old, wanted by the Sheriff's Office for sexual battery, sex offense against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation. Obviously someone we'd love to get off the streets. Last known address, Spencer Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is still looking for Brittany Linnell Sanders, and they're looking for her for violation of probation for create, use, or possess counterfeit credit cards with the intent to use counterfeit information.
And sticking with the Walton County Sheriff's Office, Joshua James Picard's wanted for violating probation for possession with intent to sell, manufacture, or deliver a controlled substance, as well as possession of marijuana and paraphernalia. Last known address for Picard was Defuniak Springs.
And Audrey Shea Pendarvis is being sought for violation of probation for DUI and also violation of probation for failure to appear on bail.
Juan Ramon Marquez, wanted by the Fort Walton Beach Police Department for trafficking in stolen property. Last known address, John Keel Avenue in Fort Walton Beach.
And last on this list is Roderick James Rutterson Jr., who's 35 years old. He's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school and failure to appear for driving while license suspended or revoked. Last known to live on Mooney Road in Fort Walton Beach.
You know, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and many agencies put a lot of emphasis on solving cold cases, and it's had tremendous success, the Sheriff's Office here, in recent years. But up next is a case from 1973 that still demands justice: the murder and suspected sexual assault of a Niceville teenager. Investigator Michael Smith says 19-year-old Deborah Espy was a quiet, all-American girl, but the Niceville resident's life came to a violent end back on March 12, 1973.
It started as a missing persons report. The father of Miss Espy had driven her to college that morning, and she was due home that evening. She never showed up. This was in March of 1973. The father contacted the police department and in turn the sheriff's department and reported her missing, and just, was frantic, didn't know what had happened to her. And then approximately a month later, in April, there was a military member that was out riding a motorcycle out on the range and came across a shallow grave and actually could see part of her legs protruding up out of the ground. And of course he notified law enforcement that he had found this grave, and they exhumed it, and she was identified through her dental records as Deborah Espy.
Deborah died from blunt force trauma to the head. She also had a broken jaw, and investigators suspect she was sexually assaulted. She had been known to hitchhike, but Smith does not think she would have accepted a ride from a stranger.
Based on the interviews that I've read so far, she was a pretty shy person, pretty quiet, and would not have gotten into a car with somebody she didn't know. So my personal belief is that it was somebody that she was acquainted with.
Smith says the sheriff's office is reanalyzing the evidence in this case and looking for any new leads that the public can provide.
If there's anybody that has any information, no matter how old it is, no matter how many times it's been looked at, we'll look at it again.
If you have any information on the murder of 19-year-old Deborah Espy of Niceville in March 1973, please contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office at 850-651-7400 or Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers at 850-863-TIPS. For Cold Case Chronicles, I'm Michelle Nicholson.
The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has solved several cases in recent years that are many decades old, and investigators are hoping they can add this one to that list.
That's right. And Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers is one of the most successful programs in Florida, and we want to thank all of you that are watching because you're part of the reason that that's happening. Nicole is going to talk about some of the successes from 2016, and there are a lot.
That's right. We had another record-breaking year. It seems like every single year the tips just keep more and more coming in, and this year we had more than 1,240 tips, which easily topped last year by 100. And we actually paid more than $6,000 more in rewards in 2016 than we did in 2015. So that was also a pretty big number. We've had a lot of people, and of course, now that we have the mobile app, that was taken advantage of quite a bit back in 2016 when we switched to that back in July. So 3 easy ways to contact us, all completely anonymous, and you may just earn a cash reward if you can provide information about a wanted fugitive or leads to recovery of some stolen property or drugs, and of course anything that helps solve a crime.
And really, the tips are actually, the mobile tips is probably the most popular method that people are using now?
Yes, by far. Yeah, it used to be the web tips, but now we're just getting a lot of mobile tips, and it's easy for us because we can actually communicate with you quicker online anonymously through the mobile application, which has been great.
And anonymous obviously always being the key word for Crime Stoppers.
That's right.
We're going to finish up now with another rundown on suspects so we can hopefully start off 2017 with some great tips coming in as well.
That's right. And first up is a familiar face. We'd love to find this one, Mark Robert Fitzgerald, and he's wanted by not only the Walton County Sheriff's Office but also the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for grand theft and contracting without a license, last known to live in Santa Rosa Beach.
Edward J. Stanley is wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for failure to appear on multiple counts of uttering a forged instrument and grand theft.
And next up is Trey Wan. I have no idea how to say that middle name, but last name is Blunt. He's 29 years old, and he's wanted for violation of probation for 2 counts of dealing in stolen property, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Take a look at the mugshot of Charles Keith Wallace. Wallace is wanted for possession of a controlled substance without a prescription.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is searching for Everett Hairston, and they're looking for him on the original violation of probation on the original charge of grand theft auto.
If Eric Arsenault is still in the area, give us a call. He's wanted for VOP on the original charge of grand theft auto. Arsenault's last known address was in Walton County.
And the Fort Walton Beach Police Department is looking for John Henry Bonner for grand theft and violation of Pawnbrokers Act and non-payment of child support.
Daniel Wesley Arthur wanted for felony neglect of an elderly person or disabled adult without causing great bodily harm, possession of a controlled substance by misrepresentation, fraud, forgery, or deception, and theft. Last known address for Arthur, Fort Walton Beach.
And 28-year-old Samuel Edward Thomas III is wanted for violation of probation on the original charges of providing false information to pawnbroker, false imprisonment, and grand theft, last known to live in Shalimar.
Jennifer Dawn Nolan, last known address was in Crestview. She's wanted for VOP for possession or distribution of chemicals to make a controlled substance.
And Zachary Terrell Allen is wanted for violation of probation for battery, last known to live in Crestview.
Jermaine Carl Tape is up next, wanted for VOP for carrying a concealed weapon, fleeing law enforcement, and possession of cocaine. Last known address for Jermaine Carl Tape was in Fort Walton Beach.
And Tiffany Michelle Bennett, she's 38 years old, and she's wanted for violation of probation for possession of a controlled substance.
Winding down now, we're getting to Christopher Lloyd Kelly, wanted for larceny. Kelly's last known address was in Seminole.
And last but certainly not least is Jamel Lee Coleman, who's a new face to the show this month, and he's wanted for fraud and grand theft, last known to live on Old Edgewater Drive up in Crestview. And as most of you know, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers does not receive funding from any taxpayer dollars, and we rely a lot on not only private donations, but also the fundraising abilities of our board. And if you've ever been to one of our fundraising events, you know that our big event is the Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers Crawfish Boil. And of course, we added the Mud Bug Run last year, and we're going to be doing that again. So we want you to save the date for this year's event. It's going to be Saturday, April 22nd, and it's going to be at Uptown Station again. And we look forward. You can see some of the photos from last year there. We had a great time, more than 1,000 pounds of crawfish last year, and we figured that that's just going to go up again this year. So save the date. Keep an eye on our Facebook page and our website, because we are looking for sponsors, and there's a whole lot of benefits to being a sponsor. So
And get there early
coming
because,
up.
like last year, there was quite the line.
That's
there.
right.
It's a popular event.
We have run out before, so.
No doubt. Keep that in mind. So that's going to do it for this edition of Okaloosa Eye on Crime. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.